This business is like the Wild West. Gold, silver, rare coins, lost treasures of history. You never know what's gonna walk through that door. Okay, so you got 130 bucks here. Watch this. I'm Evan Kale, and this is Pawn Man. So it sounds like you got a lot of gold today.
I do. All that, and I have a lot of silver coins as well.
Oh, good. I'm really low on silver right now, so that's perfect.
The chain part says it's 14K.
I'm gonna have to file into it. I think it probably is. Okay, this one's good. I'm so careful now. I bought a fake one for $1,000, so
Yikes.
I can file into everything. Okay, I do not think this is gold. I'm gonna file into it, but it's a Pulsar quartz watch, which is a cheap watch. It's gold filled. I get you $10 on the watch for all of it. It's a trace amount of gold when they gold fill stuff. If you ever see a fraction next to gold, it just means it's gold filled. It's like 0.5%. What else you got? Is that for jewelry?
Yeah, that's it for jewelry, I think.
Those are spenders.
Spenders?
Yep, just glancing at them, I can see they're not clad. Or I can see they're clad. You got 40 bucks there? You said?
It's probably way more than $40.
I got a change counter. I can change you out if you want, because I need quarters for laundry.
Hell yeah.
Sweet. And anything else? These?
Perhaps, depending on...
Do you want me to weigh this first and see where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay. 2,225 is where we're at so far.
Awesome.
So you want cash or check?
Cash.
Okay. So I got a stack of these. These are clad. Got $12.25 in junk silver. Here's the money. The melt price on this exceeds what I paid. Not by much, but this is what I bought, and then this stuff is gonna be my profit here. So I'll probably make about $400 on this deal. Not bad, but that's the thing with this business. You think, wow, you just made $400. Yeah, I just spent $2,800 to do it. Let's make it in smaller scales. I paid $28 to make $4. It's not a lot. It's after hours. I have this remote deal that I've been putting off, and you guys will see why in a minute, because I slid it open. Like, UPS driver the other day just comes like lugging the stuff in here. Hey, you'll see. Okay, so hi Evan. First deal went so easy, figured I'd send you some more stuff, and it's like fucking like VHS tapes and a first aid kit. Oh, I don't want this stuff. Okay, that kind of like that, but I'm not a dumpster. Cum dumpster, yes, but I'm not a dumpster. Like, I don't want books. I'm not a pawn shop. I'm Pawn Man because it's marketable, because that's what you guys started calling me, but holy shit, I'm not actually a pawn shop. I like literally don't want this shit. Like, I'm sorry to yell at this person, but because I bet it cost them money to send it, and I have to pay for that because I said I would. Don't send me shit, guys. Oh, it's a hookah. Okay, well, at least it's something I can use. Okay, so yeah, I did get tools. You guys, I fucking don't want tools. Even Rick Harrison doesn't want tools. He says it in his book, Power Tools Kill Any Pawn Store. Did I mention how much I hate Hummers? Did I mention how much I hate the color yellow? Did I mention how much I hate yellow cars, except Lamborghinis that are yellow? Another Hummer! The price is right! Fuck you, Evan! Fuck you! Okay, I took a breath and pulled my head out of my ass. I'm not having as much of a temper tantrum. So, let's take a look at this stuff. So this person spent way too much money sending this to me. I can't imagine how expensive this was to ship. We have a hookah. Tim Allen Signature Tools First Aid Kit. A 1/18 size yellow Hummer. A loose Casio device from looks like the 1980s. A master painter stripping tool with 7 interchangeable wheel tips. A Casio LCD color fucking year is this from? You guys, I'm old enough where like I remember seeing this shit in stores. This is probably something that like cost like $200 or $300 back in the day.
Complete for only $99.95. Order now and never miss another program.
Some sports cards, which I know nothing about. I can't stress enough, you guys. I don't like sports. I don't want sports stuff. I don't even want to research this stuff. It gives me a headache just looking at it. Like, I literally have no idea who I'm looking at here. Somebody with brain damage, probably. Somebody who's probably missing some teeth. That's about as far as I can go with that. So, I don't even know what these are worth. I'm gonna assume next to nothing because they don't look like anything special. I guess this one I will attempt to look up. I, again, have no idea if I'm holding a 5-cent card or a $500 card. And I kind of don't care, to be honest, because again, I just don't want sports stuff. So this stuff, I mean, I guess I'll look it up and see what I can offer them. But some Little League patches, some toys that are more modern. I mean, they're not like antique toys. A bunch of VHS tapes and books, which I'm literally just gonna donate these to the Goodwill, and then I might read this one, maybe. I think that it's fucking diabetic insulin kit? Yeah. I don't even know what this is. And then a 1980s car phone in the box. So all I'm missing is a bag of cocaine and a white Rolls Royce, and then I will be set for a fun night. God. I mean, what I'm gonna do, I guess I'm gonna just get in contact with them and be like, how much was shipping? I'll give you that plus like 10 bucks. Okay, if you guys, if you're sending me jewelry or coins, just send it. You don't have to run it by me unless it's modern coins. I don't want those. I'm not gonna pay up on those. If it's a clad modern coin, post 1970, I just like don't want it. This kind of stuff, just like check with me first before you go jumping and sending a package, because like probably on my part, I should have made that more clear that like I'm not looking for this kind of stuff. But if it's junk and you're thinking about donating it to the Goodwill because it's just junk, then don't send it to me. But let's see what this person wants.
3 days later.
So it's a couple days later, and we could not reach a deal. I asked him how much he had into shipping. He said 20, and I was like, look, I'll give you another 15 bucks on top, so call it $35. And he wanted way more, and I was like, I'll come up to 50, but that's being generous. I really don't see getting more than 60, 70, $80 out of this thing, and I gotta pay people to list it too. And so we just couldn't make a deal, so I am sending this back to him. Cost me 40 bucks, but I've done business with him in the past, and you know, I was able to make content out of it and use this as an educational device to everybody else that like, you know, this is not the kind of stuff that I want. So unfortunately, I couldn't make a deal here, but all content is gravy. He's a good customer still. He's not upset. So that's how that goes. Let's talk a little bit about the United States Secret Service. So what I didn't know, Secret Service was created just days before Lincoln was assassinated. He signed off on it, but it wasn't created to protect the president. It was created because counterfeit operations were a major threat to national security after the Civil War. In 1865, when the Secret Service was created, they were initially part of the Treasury Department. See, as we've talked about on this show, during the Civil War, there was a massive coin hoarding shortage. It created a lot of economic problems. That's why we have Civil War tokens, and it's partly why we have paper money, because we didn't have enough bullion to go around. So because there was this new thing called paper money, the counterfeiting operations in it were, well, very lucrative and very easy to do. There weren't a whole lot of counterfeiting measures and bills like we have now. In fact, it was estimated that after the Civil War, upwards of half of all currency that was circulating in the United States might have been counterfeit. That had the potential to do more damage to the Union than all of the Confederacy and all their armies and all the war. So Lincoln signs off on the Secret Service. He's assassinated, ironically, just a couple days later.
I need to see this play like I need a hole in the head.
But then by 1867, the Secret Service has done this experiment has done such a great job of catching counterfeiters that their powers are expanded. Now, there was a lot of pushback against giving an agency power to just run around the Union, go border to border, state to state without really any federal agency, federal powers like that. It was being pushed back against because of states' rights. However, there was this idea that number one, this threat, this menace of counterfeiting was gonna do so much damage, it was worth the cost. Number two, as our presidents were getting closer to 1900, particularly Teddy Roosevelt, the idea of centrism and federalism is really starting to catch on. This idea that we do need federal agencies to exercise federal power over the states. In 1881, President Grover Cleveland is assassinated, and now the Secret Service is getting kind of what we know about them now. The focus of wanting to protect presidents, it begins being discussed in Congress. In 1894, the Secret Service's powers are expanded to add presidential protection, but it's more of like an on and off duty. Their main job is still money counterfeiting. But then in 1901, President McKinley is assassinated, and this is 3 assassinations in like 36 years, which for the United States, now emerging as the world power, #1 on the stage, that's a bad look. On top of that, there's a lot of anarchy, there's riots going on, there's a lot of instability in the US. This idea that somebody could just go and pick off the president is sowing chaos. Basically, people in the government are starting to not feel safe. So this is why the Secret Service is now beginning to focus more on a protection detail aspect. Teddy Roosevelt called them a very necessary evil, just a very necessary presence. He didn't really like them. He was a very rugged man. He didn't like the idea of needing to be protected. And interestingly, he was shot during a speech and he kept going, because he's Teddy. In 1930, the Secret Service takes over the White House police staff. In 1937, they take over the Treasury Department police staff. In 1971, the Secret Service hired its first 5 female agents. In 2010, Obama appointed Julia Pearson the first female head of the Secret Service. Unfortunately, she had to resign after 4 years because there were a number of really scary security breaches. Apparently, among other things, some whack job with a gun jumped the White House fence and was on the White House lawn. Interestingly, General Patton, the famed World War II general, said of the Secret Service, "They're a bunch of cheap detectives who always smell of drink." Today, the United States Secret Service still does counterfeit money operations. In fact, that's most of what they're doing, is investigating stuff like that. The Patriot Act created some new laws for them, and some new ideas for what they should do, one of them being cybersecurity threats against the United States. But their other job consists of security detail for high-profile politicians, which include the president, the vice president, their families, their minor children, their spouses. They protect foreign heads of state. They protect events that are of national security or on a national stage. For example, I have a bunch of these different pins from various conventions. This one's from the DNC in 1996 in Chicago. So something where a person, a terrorist, could come, or an assassin, and do some fuckery that would make the United States look bad, or sow chaos, or do something to destabilize our way of life here in America. You can count on the Secret Service to be there, keeping eyes out. So there's a brief history of the United States Secret Service. These are Secret Service pins. I bought these from a Secret Service agent's wife came in. I guess he's retired or is retiring and is downsizing. So this is just a tiny fraction of these pins I got. Different field offices that he worked in, different events that he did. I'm putting these on eBay because with the Soviet pins, it was fucking chaos trying to sell that on Instagram. It's just easier to do this one by one, set price, buy it on eBay, take it off my hands on eBay. I don't want to try finagling messages with all these like tiny little items. They're about 10 bucks a pin. I paid for maybe 150 pins. I paid like $100, so it's pure profit. It's just, I don't know how quickly these are gonna sell. But the United States Secret Service is very interesting. Oh, typical Monday, good things on my desk. Nice, fun thing. Let's see, we got some Chernobyl coins, North Vietnam. I got this Cambodia Pol Pot currency set. Isn't this just lovely? Look at these fun, loving people. Let's see, what other fun, appropriate things do we have? Got a couple Nazi medals just sitting here. So we are off to a great start today with this stuff. This is a pile of costume jewelry I've been putting off for several days. It's been sitting right here. I'm gonna get to it. Okay, about an hour later, I'm finally finished, so I'll show you what I picked out. This is all the junk. I'm doing this whole lot on eBay, $75. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna get it, but we paid $120 for all this crap. And then here's the good stuff I picked out. So I don't know what this is. It's like, almost like a fun egg. It's for a mystery box. This is all going in mystery boxes here, these synthetic gemstones. I got a vintage pin from the 1996 Atlanta Games, which I believe was pipe bombed. I got this junky watch I can add to my watch bin. There's not much here. I think this is like gold filled or something. I gotta look at it more closely, but it's vintage and is better than just putting in this giant lot. I'll clean it up. It might be silver plated. Halloween is always right around the corner. I'm gonna keep this for my store because we don't have any decorations. These are some like kind of whatever tokens. I'm gonna just add these to my token lot. This might be the find of all of it. It's a bird stamp. You guys remember Buy Trip Special number 1 or 2? I bought one of these, or what is it called? A bird tag. These are very collectible. I got one from like the 1950s. And I got I want to say I got like $120 on it. I mean, this could be something cheaper. I don't know, I gotta look this one up. Otherwise, I got some Masonic stuff here. I can probably get like $30 on this piece. It's gold filled. I have a Masonic, like a token, like a medallion, and this tiny little Masonic medallion here. This is all gold filled stuff. This right here is 40, 50 bucks. So for the 120 I spent, honestly, This is probably my money back right here. And then this is pure profit along with this. So yeah, not bad. $120 deal, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 to $300. But let's look up the value on this. Okay, so this is not an easy item to identify. I asked my Discord, they seem to think it's real. So this is a physical stamp, and this is a stamp, but it looks like it's been embroidered, is that the word? Enameled, okay, so this is like, it's an enameled stamp, but the serial number, this is what leads me to believe that this is legit. It's got the serial number and all the government information on the back here. So I need to look into this more, but it does appear to be an original stamp, and like, this is kind of the going rate for these, 135. So this, if this is as legit as I think it is, this pays for the whole deal and then some. But there's a bit more research to be done. This is Purple Heart. Unfortunately, I could not find a buyer, so I am sending this back. I got offers for 300. The buyer wanted 500 just for the Purple Heart, not for these other metals, but unfortunately, like I said, couldn't find it. However, they did buy a $550 silver mystery box, and I made money off those Star Trek autographs that they sent me in consigned. And I bought some other stuff from them. So overall, this was a good deal. I was glad to see this piece of history, but unfortunately, like I said, I think the seller just wants a little bit too much money for this, so it shall stay with them. And I'm not sure if this is his family member or not. It was not made clear to me, but back it goes. And plenty of people yelled at me for having it and were like, you should return it to the family. But not a single person offered to put their money where their mouth is. Not a single one. So next time you decide to yell at me for having something, just know I will do these things. You just have to pay for it. I'm not gonna pay for it myself. I'm running a business. So actually, this came in like the Purple Heart paperwork came in like a special package, and I did lose it. It was like a vintage tube, so I'm gonna put it in the Scotch container and tape it up, and hopefully that's okay. It was ratty. I can't imagine it would affect the value at all, not having that original container. I just found out Juliet was next door talking to the new neighbors, and you guys remember a couple weeks ago how there was all that pounding, and I was so pissed. They put up the sheetrock, the shit on the walls, because they could hear me screaming Pond Man all the time, and it was driving them crazy. So, give and take, I guess. Give and take. Story of my stripping career. All right, guys, for this informative segment, we are talking all about military currency or occupation currency, or military payment certificates, as they are known. This is one of those things where I'd never heard of this before entering this business, and I would be past these items, you know, people would be selling them to me, and I had no idea what the hell they were. And then finally I looked into it, and because I was seeing enough of them, and very interesting, and these are very collectible pieces of currency. So what happens is, when a country invades another country during war, or, you know, what have you, what they will do is they will inject their own kind of currency into the economy for their soldiers and occupiers to use, rather than using the local economy's money. See, among worries is if an invading country injects its currency into an invaded country, it could royally screw up the economy, which can cause massive, massive problems for the occupiers. One of the biggest problems that can happen is black markets can form, and they can really destabilize the status quo. I mean, this is kind of how the Yakuza came to power in Japan. They've been around for a while, but they got really powerful after World War II because of the black markets that formed in the ruined Japanese economy. If an invading country injected its currency into an invader, it can also cause rapid inflation. The invaded country's economy and currency can become worthless, and then suddenly you'd have all these people that have no money. Kind of like at the end of World War I Germany. Because what will happen is you will have locals, they will continuously be lowering exchange rates, and just these funny things in economics can happen that, like I said, can just make hell for the occupiers. Another thing that can happen, coming with the deflation of local currency, a local government could potentially hoard the aggressor's currency. They could trade it at a greater value, and this gives them more wealth and fighting power that they would have had before. Historically, what they would do, an army would issue currency of wherever they were invading to the soldiers and allow the soldiers to spend that currency, barter with locals, and isolate their currency. This comes with its own set of problems, because if this economy tanks, then the money that you're paying these soldiers in is worthless. So they fight a war, and they come back and they don't have any money. They probably have less of a body than when they started out with. It's not quite the same thing, but what I've been thinking of, apparently Putin is issuing payments to soldiers that are hurt, and he's, you know, trying to say, well, you know, I'm gonna pay you guys to go and do this. You're being paid well, but they're being paid a monopoly money. You know, they're being paid in a currency that is basically worthless. So what happened after World War I, the idea of this military currency came to fruition. It got really big after World War II. You could argue that the Confederacy was the first to do this, because they issued notes that were promises to pay, you know, when the fighting was done. However, Well, we know how history went. They didn't win. In World War I, practically every country involved in an occupation began issuing this military currency, and this is the most collectible kind of military currency. Most of what you're gonna find is ratty and in just terrible shape. Soldiers that were using it back then, it wasn't exactly thought of as hot commodity that could be collectible. It was more thought of in its practicality terms. You know, when we're talking about German Notgeld, that was specifically collected by the people. You know, it was an emergency currency, a special kind of currency, but people were into collecting that right from the get-go. Not so much so with this military currency. It wasn't designed to be beautiful. There wasn't a whole lot of thought that was put into it. Usually when they would issue military currency, it would all be different colors, but the same design and nothing too exciting. Something to get the job done of this economic question of what happens with the occupied country's economic system. So in 1944, this is kind of when it starts to become a staple of global conflicts because the writing is on the wall that the Axis are going to lose. There's going to be massive occupations. There's going to be, the Allies see what happened after World War I in Germany. They don't want this to happen again because that economic rife is what created the Nazis, or largely what drove all the hatred and extremities of Germany to the lengths that they went. They don't want this to repeat itself again. In 1944, there's the Bretton Woods Conference. Now, you guys remember that from high school. That was something before researching this. I had to think back on it. In Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, in 1944, 44 countries gathered for a conference to discuss what to do with the global economy after World War II. What it was decided was because the US was the victor, or was going to be the victor of World War II, was ultimately going to be the #1 world power and had more gold than anyone else, the world would be tied to the dollar because the dollar was tied to gold. So the US dollar was the staple of the global economy as it still is today, although, you know, I just won't get political about that. But with the US dollar becoming internationally tradable with the Bretton Woods Conference and US military interactions taking place over the next decade in Korea and ultimately in Vietnam, the adoption of the US dollar as a standard for global economics made sense. And when you tie military currency to this, a currency issued by the victors of World War II, by the United States government, nobody even thinks to question it. It just makes sense. It's the US government. Of course it's backable. However, there was a bit of a ramification because the US dollar became the global standard. The dollar was accepted pretty much anywhere, which screwed up some economies. I mean, think about it. And I've done this. This is true. I've gone to Jamaica. They don't care about their money. They care about US dollars. And what is it? Like, you can spend US dollars in a lot of other countries and they would rather have that than their own currency. The problem with this, though, is because you have the dollar being circulated amongst the global economy, people are going to trust that more than their own dollar, and they're going to use that dollar against the United States. They're going to use it to buy weapons, to buy whatever. This is partly why we issued the Hawaiian dollars. We were afraid Japan was going to take the island of Hawaii, seize all the money on it, and then just use it against the US. This is what you're kind of starting to see with this advent of the dollar being accepted everywhere. What the special military issue currency notes did was when we would go to another one of these wars that we would go to fight in the 20th century, Korea, Vietnam, instead of taking all of our dollars with all of our troops and injecting them in there, with these military certificates, that allows the US government to keep currency out of areas that are military conflict zones. They also prevent service members from manipulating local black markets, from putting this money into their own pocket, from getting rich, benefiting off the conflicts that they're fighting in. And military currency has continued to be used to today. It's a little bit different now than it was then. Recently, the US military used something known as office pogs, or AAFES pogs. It's a cardboard coin. It represents pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, etc. Shipping actual metal coins to Iraq and the other conflicts in the Middle East that the US has been in was not economically feasible, so this is what they used. Soldiers didn't like them, they discarded them, and today those are highly collectible. But so is military currency as a whole. So I do have a lot of military currency notes for sale here. I have been building on it because I've wanted to cover this topic for a while. This is a little bit of a convoluted topic. I mean, it shouldn't seem that hard, but just it was harder for me to digest when I was reading and learning about this. There's a lot of economic policies you have to understand, basic economics of conflicts and black markets. The takeaway that you need to know about military currency is it's issued to prevent economic instability when an occupier occupies an occupee, and it became mostly recognized after the Bretton Woods Conference of 1944. However, we went off the gold standard thanks to Nixon in the 70s. We have not been on the gold standard since. So what does the dollar mean now in comparison with the gold standard and what the economy of the globe is doing in terms of valuing our dollar? That is a subject for another episode because that is a whole different can of worms that I don't want to get into right now. For now, let's just take a look at some of the military currency that I have and let's talk a little bit about it and its collectability. So I have a few different examples here. This is the oldest one that I have. If this was uncirculated, This will be worth about $250. This is worth about 15 bucks. Most of these you're gonna be paying, when I see them, I pay 4 or 5 bucks if I can help it. Most of the ones I find are pretty ratty, folded, obviously been used, and they're worth, 10 to 15, most of these. So everything you see here, about 200 bucks tops. So this is the oldest one. These are from occupied Germany. Got the big fancy M on the back. It's got the series. This is the serial number. Now, I don't know if this is one. Usually there should be a letter in front of the number. If not, it means that it is a replacement note, kind of like a star note. I don't know if these are replacement notes or that's not just how these ones came, but usually you will see a letter in front of it, and the letter means that it is not a replacement note. So this is for occupied Japan. These were for GIs to use as they occupied the nation from, when did this start? 46 to 52? Majored in Japanese, I should know. 52 or 53, I think 52. Sometimes you're gonna see there will be like tape on the edge here. I don't have any in front of me that are like that, but they would tape the edge. They're called short snorters. And it was because sometimes, mostly starting in Vietnam, but sometimes soldiers would collect these. And so they'd tape them together, or it was if they were spending them in mass. With these Japanese currency occupation notes, you'll see it's either A or B. A is more desirable. I don't have any A notes in front of me. These are all B notes. These ones are Japanese government ones when they occupied the Philippines. And if you're like, Japanese government, pesos, Philippines, well, that doesn't make sense. The Philippines were under Spanish control, so they were using pesos. And when the Japanese government took over during World War II, it made sense to just keep the denomination the same, but just to issue their own kind of currency. Yeah, see, this one's got some handwriting. Invasion of the Philippines, October 20th, 1944. So these ones here, these are Vietnam era ones, and you can see, I think these were started in 69. So these are issued to soldiers stationed in Vietnam, and it's a moon theme, because, 1969, so there's the astronaut on the back and the submarine on the front. These are all, this is like, I think this is the only design that they did, because they don't change the design. They don't want to put a whole lot of effort into this. They just simply change the color. These ones right here, a little more modern. These are British occupation pieces. I paid $20 for all this. I got 50 bucks on them. They're cool. I think these ones are more colorful and the design is really good. But you'll notice as you look at them, this note is valid only for transactions within the official canteens and organizations laid down in GROs of the theater, except may be express provided with GROs. It must in no circumstances be offered to any person who is not entitled to use British service canteens. Improper use of this note is a disciplinary offense and may render the offender liable to penalties. It's the World War II stuff and older that's more expensive. In conclusion, average military currency, they are collectible when they're uncirculated. They can be expensive. They're a couple bucks. You can get about 10, 15 maybe on them, usually no more. Depends on the series, depends on the issue, depends on the condition. And that, dear viewer, is the magic of military currency. All right, guys, just like that, it is the end of the day and the end of the episode. If you guys like this video, be sure you give it a thumbs up. Hit the notification button so you guys know when new episodes of Pawn Man are coming out. Become a Pawn Man Patreon. Every dollar I get goes toward improving my show. Get my books on Amazon. Follow me on social media at Evan Kale, at Pawn Man, and I will see you guys back here for another episode of Pawn Man. Later, guys.